You're about to understand what no one ever told you. The fear that paralyzes you wasn't born with you. It was installed like a virus. And now you're about to uncover the hidden code that can delete it from your mind for good. Take a deep breath, because this isn't just a video, it's an activation. If you've ever felt that block in your chest, right when you were about to act, to speak, to show up, if you've frozen even when you knew exactly what you wanted to do, then pay attention. This isn't weakness, this is programming. And this programming was built to keep you obedient, restrained, silent. Here comes the first truth. The fear you feel isn't yours. It's been cultivated for centuries by systems that feed your insecurity, so you'll never discover what you're really capable of. You grew up thinking this was normal, but it's not. This is a vibrational cage, and today you'll watch the lock on that cage swing open. This is what we call a code, and the Egyptians already knew about it. The Hermetic schools protected it. Thoth left it recorded, not in pretty words, but in precise practices, and one of those practices is about to be activated now. You're going to do this with me. Feel where fear lives in your body. It might be in your chest, your throat, your stomach. Now, breathe deeply into that spot. And repeat in your mind, I am presence. I release this fear. Does it sound simple? Only if you're watching this as a distraction. But if you do it with intention, your system will already start to vibrate differently. The field shifts, because this practice isn't symbolic, it's energetic, and this is just the beginning. But the most powerful part is still sealed. And when you hear the first hidden code left by Thoth, you'll understand why no one wants you to find this out. Because when fear dissolves, you become something that terrifies any system of control. Invincible. Now, if you want to step through the next portal, keep going, because that's where the real truth begins. Where there is fear, the heart is absent. And where the heart is absent, the spirit cannot speak. Before a new reality reveals itself, there's always a force that tries to stop you from moving forward. It doesn't show up as a monster or a clear threat. On the contrary, sometimes it comes as a subtle thought, a sigh, a doubt, a feeling in your stomach that freezes you for no clear reason. This is the guardian of the threshold, the final barrier between your current awareness and the next stage of your expansion. You won't see it with your physical eyes, but you will feel it. It shows up every time you're about to break an old pattern. Every time you think about speaking your truth, making a different decision, stepping away from what's expected. It appears as that voice that whispers, "What if it goes wrong? What if they judge you? What if it's too late?" That voice isn't just yours. It's part of a collective programming that guards the gates of real change. What's interesting is that this symbolic figure of the guardian is present in almost every authentic spiritual tradition. The Egyptians called it the dragon at the gate. The Vedas saw it as a manifestation of Mara, the illusionist. In Hermeticism, it's described as the bearer of doubt, and in shamanism, as the spirit that tests the seeker's intention. In every case, the pattern repeats. There is a force that tests whether you're truly ready to cross the portal. But here's the most important detail. The guardian is not against you. It doesn't want to stop you out of malice. It exists because the next level of awareness requires responsibility. And responsibility without preparation leads to collapse. That's why fear shows up before expansion. Because without it, you would unconsciously enter a space you're not yet ready to inhabit. Fear, at this point, is like the fire that protects the temple. It burns the unprepared. It filters out those who are not ready. But at the same time, it purifies those who choose to walk through with awareness. This is the test. The threshold test. And that's why so many people stop right here. Because they confuse ego fear with the voice of intuition. They confuse discomfort with a sign that it's not meant to be. But not every discomfort is a warning of danger. Sometimes it's a sign your soul is expanding. The question isn't whether fear will show up. It always does. The real question is, what do you do when it shows up? Do you retreat or do you face it? Because when you look the guardian in the eyes without running away, something happens. Something very subtle and very powerful. The illusion begins to dissolve. The inner voice changes its tone, and what once felt like a wall begins to reveal a passage. This passage doesn't lead to a physical place, it leads to a vibrational state. A new frequency where you access parts of yourself that had been asleep. You start to realize that fear wasn't the problem. The problem was the way you reacted to it. When you stop resisting, stop running, stop trying to fight fear with force, it transforms. It shows its true nature. And here's the shift. Fear wasn't there to destroy you. It was there to protect what is most sacred within you. But that sacredness only reveals itself to those who prove themselves worthy. Worthy not in a moral sense, but in an energetic one. To those who choose to walk through even with a racing heart, even with a trembling voice, even without any guarantee that it will work. First code. The name reveals the portal. It's exactly in this moment, when the guardian weakens and the mind begins to quiet, that the veil of illusion becomes visible for the first time. Because fear, as you've known it until now, was never just a feeling. It is a code, an ancient program running in the background of your consciousness. And now that you've crossed the threshold, you begin to see the invisible commands that were installed without your awareness. The mind believes it's in control, but it's only following orders that weren't created by you. From the beginning of your life, you were exposed to a repetitive sequence of beliefs, ideas, narratives, and experiences that shaped how you think, feel, and act. And you know what the most reinforced pattern is? The pattern of limitation, of doubt, of separation. Because the more you believe you're alone, fragile, small, or vulnerable, the easier it is to keep you under control. This programming is not new. It's ancestral. It's been passed down from generation to generation as a silent inheritance. You were born into a vibrational field already loaded with stories of fear, scarcity, judgment, and guilt. Since childhood, the commands began to install. Don't speak too loudly. Don't believe in yourself too much. Better not try. What if you fail? The mind absorbed each of these phrases as absolute truth. And over the years, those commands became tangled like roots, creating an internal structure that today looks like you. But it's not. This you that's afraid to make mistakes, that feels small in the face of life, that stays silent when you should speak, is not your real self. It's your conditioned self. It's the part of you that's responding to installed programming. And here's the point. This programming has been reinforced daily by multiple sources. School taught you to compete, to obey, and to repeat. The media taught you to be afraid, to compare yourself, and to distrust everything. And even religions, in many cases, were distorted to feed guilt and submission, not expansion and inner truth. But none of this happened by chance. The mind programmed by fear is highly controllable, and the system that runs the modern world knows this. A fearful person consumes more, works more, obeys more, questions less, and above all, vibrates at a lower frequency, which is exactly where the collective consciousness must be kept so that nothing changes. Because if people start vibrating in truth, clarity and courage, the game ends. That's why modern fear has become far more sophisticated than primitive fear. Today, it no longer shows up just as fear of death. It disguises itself as anxiety, comparison, perfectionism, procrastination. You don't realize you're afraid, but you feel stuck. This is the new form the programming has found to protect itself. It hides. It convinces you it's normal, that everyone lives this way, that everything's fine, but it's not. You've already sensed something is wrong, that this rushed automatic life without deep meaning can't possibly be the purpose of human existence. And that perception is the first spark of deprogramming. When you begin to doubt your own mind, a new field of possibilities opens. Because if you are not your thoughts, then who are you? That is the question that starts to deactivate the code. And the first step in doing that is the conscious identification of the pattern. Name the fear. Give form to what's holding you back. Because as long as fear stays in the dark, it's in command. But when you bring it into the light of consciousness, it weakens. This is the first real exercise. Stop now and ask yourself, with brutal honesty, what exactly are you afraid of losing? Name it. Feel it. Observe it. Don't judge it. Just bring it out. Because everything that is seen begins to dissolve, and now that you've begun to see the threads of this ancestral programming, you're about to access the first seal left by Thoth, a seal that can't be deciphered by the logical mind, but only felt with the right vibration. And when you name it, something invisible breaks. It's not just a feeling, it's a vibrational rupture. Because fear, when unnamed, acts in the shadows. It moves like an invisible virus, infiltrating your thoughts, your reactions, your behaviors. But the moment you say out loud what was trapped inside, the game begins to shift. This is the first code left by Thoth. Simple in form, but profound in power. To name is to break the spell, because fear, when it stays formless, grows. It feeds off your attempt to hide it. But when you face it, when you say with presence, "I'm afraid of this," you stop running. And in that exact moment, the energy that was once frozen begins to move. This is what the Hermetic traditions called the first mirror, the act of looking inward with clarity and courage, not with judgment, not with guilt, but with presence. And presence is what dissolves the fog. Because fear needs darkness to survive. It needs you to stay unconscious, reacting automatically, repeating patterns you don't even notice. But the simple act of naming what you feel already lights up the inner space. And here comes a detail that changes everything. You don't need to understand the fear. You don't need to explain it, rationalize it, or justify it. What you need is to recognize it, because what is recognized loses its command power. And that's the secret behind the code. Naming is taking command. It's removing fear from the driver's seat and placing consciousness there instead. Now, imagine a fear you carry. Not just any fear. Think about the one that paralyzes you, the one that makes you postpone, that makes you sabotage yourself without realizing it. Maybe it's fear of being rejected, of failing, of not being enough. Take that fear and say in your mind right now with clarity, "I recognize that I carry fear of," and complete the sentence. This is not a symbolic exercise. It's a vibrational reordering, because what is brought into consciousness begins to deprogram. The ancient Egyptians represented this moment with a symbol, the eye that opens in the middle of darkness, a sign that something has been seen and therefore can no longer dominate in silence. That eye, according to the hidden scriptures, is not in the forehead. It's in pure perception. It activates when you observe without judgment, when you feel without collapsing, when you name without running. And that's why the code begins with something so direct: to observe and name. But not just any kind of observation. It's observation without deceit, without pretending, without a mask. It's not saying, "I'm afraid," and then immediately justifying it by saying, "It's normal," or "Everyone feels this way." No, it's truly feeling it. It's saying, "I'm afraid of this," and stopping right there, in silence, breathing into your truth. Second code, the breath of presence. This is exactly the point where the second code begins to operate. When the energy of fear, once hidden and frozen, starts to move, you need to direct it, because energy that moves without direction can turn into chaos, but energy that moves with awareness becomes a force of creation. And the body is the altar where that direction happens. Fear doesn't live only in the mind. It lives in the body. It settles in as tension, tightness, contraction. Have you noticed? When you feel fear, your chest closes, your breath shortens, your abdomen locks, your shoulders rise like armor. That's not random. It's the exact reflection of your vibrational field trying to protect itself. And if you don't interrupt that cycle, that protection turns into a prison. That's where the second code left by Thoth comes in. An ancient code that can be activated right now. And it doesn't require complex rituals or technical knowledge. It requires presence. Breath, when done with intention, becomes a spiritual command. It's not just air going in and out. It's your awareness moving energy exactly where it was trapped. Start like this. Bring to mind a situation that still triggers anxiety, fear, or discomfort. Observe the spot in your body where that shows up. It could be your stomach, your chest, your throat. Don't try to change it, just notice it. Now, send your breath to that spot, as if you were sending light into the shadow. On the inhale, repeat in your mind, "I am presence." On the exhale, say, "I release this fear." This practice, when done with intention, is not symbolic. It's vibrational. It acts directly on your autonomic nervous system. And more than that, it sends a signal to your energy field that you're taking command, that you are no longer a hostage to automatic reactions, that a new order is being established right there in that moment. The ancient Egyptians taught that the breath is the messenger between worlds, between the visible and the invisible, between the physical and the subtle. That's why conscious breathing is considered an initiatory key, because it brings you back to the present moment, and it's in the present that fear starts to lose its ground. Fear only exists when you're trapped in the past or projecting the future. But when you are completely here, now, it has nowhere to attach itself. It's as if presence dissolves the space where fear used to hide. Breathing is what anchors that presence in the body. And when done with intention, it unblocks the flow of vital energy, the same flow that fear had paralyzed. And this unblocking is not just energetic, it's emotional, psychological, spiritual. You might feel waves of heat. You might feel relief. You might even cry. Don't block anything, because what's coming out is what no longer needs to stay. You're not just breathing, you're reprogramming. Because fear, now that it's been named and set in motion, doesn't just disappear. It starts to change form, and in that process of change, it reveals its true face, what it's always tried to hide from you, what it guards fiercely. And here is the crucial point. Fear doesn't hide danger. It hides a desire. Yes, what you fear most is often what your soul wants most deeply. But that desire has been repressed, dismissed, or judged so many times that it became a threat. It turned into shadow. It became fear. But deep down, in the exact center of that fear, is a pure, original, true impulse, a life force. a longing of the soul to express itself. This is where the veil of Maya begins to fall. Maya, in the Vedic tradition, is the name given to illusion. The mirror game that makes us see the world in reverse, where love becomes a risk, where expression becomes shame, where freedom becomes a threat. Maya is the system that inverts the signals, that makes you run from what would actually set you free. And that's why fear is not the enemy. It is the reversed mirror of what you most need to integrate. Look closely now. If you're afraid of being seen, maybe what your soul really wants is to be visible, recognized, heard. If you're afraid of failing, maybe your soul longs to serve with purpose, to create something that impacts the world. If your fear is being rejected, maybe the deepest desire inside you is to love and be loved with truth, because that's what fear does. It protects what hasn't yet been embraced. Third code, the fire of alchemical initiation. Crossing the veil is not the end, it's the beginning. The moment you see the desire behind the fear is the same moment you come face to face with your rawest, most intense, most pulsing truth. And this is where many turn back, because the desire of the soul doesn't come gently. It comes like fire. It burns everything that is false, everything that was built on fear, on control, on convenience. It sets fire to the internal structures that no longer support your greatness. And this is exactly what the third code activates, the fire of initiation. This fire is not outside. It's not symbolic. It's vibrational. It's an inner heat that shows up when you choose to stay present within your pain without running. It's when fear tries to shrink you, and you stay anyway, breathing, feeling, not reacting, just being there, fully. That is true courage, silent courage, the kind that doesn't shout, but stands tall when everything inside you wants to run. Thoth called this moment the living transmutation, the instant when the lead of fear begins to melt in the heat of presence until it transforms into conscious gold. Gold here has nothing to do with wealth. It has to do with clarity, with sovereignty, with silent power. That gold only appears when you stop fighting fear and begin moving through it from within. Trying to overcome fear with force doesn't work. It only makes it stronger. Fear is like a shadow. The more you fight it, the more it surrounds you. But when you ignite the fire of observation, of present feeling without judgment, something changes. The fire doesn't destroy you. It destroys what you are not. It dissolves the accumulated traumas, the inherited voices, the invisible conditionings, and in their place, space remains. That space is where the new you is born. But this new version doesn't come from ready-made formulas. It comes from an inner gesture. I stay. I won't run. I can face my truth. And this is where the true alchemist is revealed. Because the alchemist is not the one who turns lead into gold in an external lab. The true alchemist is the one who can remain conscious at the center of their own chaos, until consciousness transforms everything. This is the final test of the fire. Are you able to feel your pain until it turns into wisdom? But fire alone doesn't open the next portal. It only prepares the ground. Because fire cleanses, but it's the word that activates. And that brings us directly to the fourth code, the creative word. Because it's not enough to feel. You have to declare, and not just in any way. The words you speak carry vibration. They are much more than sound. They are commands. And the universe, the energy field, reality, respond to the vibration of what you emit. Everything you say with emotion and intention becomes living programming. If you feel fear and say, "I can't, I'm weak, this isn't for me," your body believes it, your energy believes it, and everything around you begins to vibrate in alignment with that declaration. Now, if you look fear in the eyes and, even trembling, say, "I am capable, I am guided, my voice matters," something shifts instantly, because the field begins to adjust to the new code. And this code is written by you. Thoth taught that the word is not just language, it's condensed frequency. That's why the way you speak about yourself is sacred. It doesn't matter if you don't believe it yet. What matters is that you declare it, because what is repeated with emotion becomes internal reality, and internal reality becomes vibration, and vibration shapes the world. Repeat with me now if you want. My voice touches hearts. I am capable of holding my truth. What I say builds my reality. It's not magic, it's vibrational physics. It's internal alignment. Fourth code, the courageous act that shifts the quantum field. And in this moment, when the word has already shaped the field, the universe pauses, it listens, but it also waits. It waits for you, because it's not enough to feel, and it's not enough to speak. The field only reconfigures when there is action. True action. Courageous action. Not the grand kind that changes the entire world all at once, but that small, almost invisible step you take, even while afraid. That you take despite the fear. That step changes everything. Thoth called this moment the vibrational turning point. It's when your body is still trembling, but you move anyway. It's when the inner voice still says, "This won't work," and yet you act. That gesture sends a direct command to the unconscious. The higher self is in charge now. No longer the programmed mind, the trauma, or the expectations of others, but the center of consciousness that chose not to identify with limitation. That gesture is a code, and it is one of the most powerful. Most people wait to feel ready to begin. They wait for fear to disappear before taking action, and that's why they stay stuck in the cycle for years, decades, lifetimes. But the real leap happens when you act even while feeling fear, because that action breaks the structure of the old programming. It tears the script. It reconfigures the vibrational body in real time. This is where the quantum field responds, because the field doesn't respond to scattered thoughts. It responds to coherence between intention, word, and action. When you feel fear, declare courage and act with presence. A new pattern installs itself. The external reality begins to reorganize around the new frequency. The world begins to mirror the new you that has emerged. And this action doesn't even need to be big. It can be recording a video, saying no, opening up an apology, writing a letter, asking for help, starting an old project, looking someone in the eye and telling the truth. Any symbolic act done with presence becomes living alchemy, because it seals the new vibration. It anchors the code in the body. And when that happens, something much greater begins to move on your behalf. You feel it. It's like a force beyond the ego begins to gently push the wind in your favor. People show up. Opportunities align. Intuition becomes clearer. Because the universe responds to courage. Not arrogant courage, but the kind that says, "I'm afraid, but I'm going anyway." And this is where true invincibility begins to manifest. Not as the absence of fear, but as vibrational independence. The invincibility Thoth taught was not physical armor. It was an inner state where fear might still appear, but it no longer holds power. It shows up. It is seen. It is welcomed. But it no longer defines your decisions, no longer limits your steps. no longer imprisons your gifts. In that state, you don't feel above pain. You simply stop being controlled by it. The love for truth becomes stronger than the fear of loss. The desire to serve outweighs the fear of judgment. The freedom to be who you are becomes more important than the need for approval. And that is real freedom. This is the peak of the journey, the climax of alchemy. You didn't defeat fear, you transcended the game. Fear might still arise, but it no longer finds a place to settle, because there is no longer vibrational space available for it. You have already filled that space with presence, with breath, with word, with action. You reconfigured the field, and now, what once was the enemy becomes the teacher. What once was the obstacle becomes the impulse. What once paralyzed you becomes a bridge. And as you cross that bridge, you understand. You are not here to avoid fear. You are here to move through it, with presence, with truth, with courage. And when you move through it, you become a living example. You become a path for others to cross as well. And this is the invisible legacy of the initiated. Those who decoded the code. Those who dared to feel, to speak, to act, and to stay, until fear was no longer needed as a barrier. Now that the code has been activated, there's only one thing left: to seal this frequency, so it is never lost again. If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you has already begun to awaken. So write this in the comments. Fear is not mine. This phrase anchors a new frequency in your field and helps activate the code even more powerfully. And if you want to help this channel grow and spread more content like this around the world, you can do that with a small direct support. The link is in the first pinned comment. And before you leave, don't close this video just yet. We've set aside a special piece of content that completes this journey and shows the practical continuation of what you've just felt. Click now on the video appearing on the screen. That's where the next key will be revealed. I'll meet you there.